Okay, I think we're on. Hey folks, I'm back again with Ned and Kelly Vandiver, relationship coaches who work alongside me in the Couples Cure. And we're back again to talk about something that we have in fact talked about before, but today we're going to approach it from a little bit of a different angle than we did last time. The topic is triggers in your relationship, specifically though, why getting triggered by your spouse is a gift. And this is a little bit of a mindset talk as opposed to a strategy talk. Because it's really a shift in our thinking around what triggers mean. Because on the surface, triggers, when we get triggered in our dynamics, it feels like such a pain, right? A pain in the butt. It's a setback. It's a reminder of what you're trying to do differently. It feels like failure when it happens. Yeah. So, for example, if you have recommitted to healthier communication in your marriage, but then you get triggered and it spirals into some like horrible recurring argument, you might say things that you regret, or, you know, you sabotage the progress that you've made, you ruin the connection, and you just drop a ton of negative energy into the relationship. That is painful, and it can be extremely frustrating, and it makes people lose hope. So what we want to talk about is not just how to handle and manage and preempt your triggers, but how you can actually really embrace them as a gift, as an opportunity for greater development and learning that you can use to pivot and get stronger. Yes. So every time, if you think about it this way, every time you get triggered by your partner, it's actually an opportunity for you to evolve and to gain a deeper understanding of what the assumptions are that you're making, where your lines are, what your boundaries are, and what the signs are before it gets to that point, so that you can be more preventative. So we're going to talk about what triggers are, like what's actually going on underneath the surface, how this shows up in different areas of relationships, what to be aware of, and then what to do to embrace and really learn from these triggers. And even when the triggers end up causing acting out behaviors, you can always regroup and learn. But so first things first, let's talk about what is it that actually is happening. What's happening when we get triggered? Like, people kind of know what we're talking about, right? But what is that exactly? How would you guys define it? What do you see as happening when somebody gets triggered?
Well, a trigger is basically, and I know people have heard us say it before, when you get triggered, it's really just a reflection of something that's going on inside of you that's, you know, deeper. And even if we want to take it a step further, anytime that you're triggered, you're actually making a judgment about someone or something. So you're actually judging in those moments. And because, in fact, people can't really trigger you. What triggers you is your value system and your judgments about people and about things. And so, and when we feel that whoosh come over us, you're making a value judgment. And so and they're based on the values that you're programmed with. They're based on the values that you hold in your subconscious mind, in your subconscious paradigm, and that happened in childhood. And so anything that you experienced around trauma, anything you experienced around neglect, anything you experienced just as your experience is what you were programmed with. So when you get triggered and that, you know, emotional response wells up in you, it is based around your judgment around what's actually coming up for you.
Yeah, it's like an attachment to the way things should be. And it's not always conscious. It happens so fast, right? We think of it as the outside event. This outside event is what triggered me. But really, it's our interpretation of what that event is, that outside event, what someone else did, what someone else said. It's the meaning that we make out of it on some level that causes us to react that way, but it happens so fast we don't even realize it.
Right? To me, it almost sounds like it's almost like a trauma, almost, when I think about it. Because the way, I mean, the way that I would view it, when I think about someone who, for instance, let's say they slip and fall into a pool as a child, okay, and you know they feel like they're drowning, and it becomes a traumatic situation for them going forward, and they've never had it addressed. So every time there's an incident where, you know, they may approach a pool or get around a pool, somatically they get this feeling and this rush over them that they don't really have any control over.
Right.
And it's almost the same situation when people are feeling like this outside thing is happening to them, but it's really coming from inside of them and the experience from their past that is causing their body to feel the way it feels and get really, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like that to me when I think about it.
That makes sense. That's why it's so automatic, right? It's in the body. It's like this physiological reaction.
Yeah.
Using that example, if you see somebody running by the pool, you get anxious and you think the trigger is running by the pool.
Yeah. So your values around being around the water are going to be, I don't really like to be near the water. I prefer the mountains. And, there are a lot of reasons why people don't like. They're just not water people. They're not ocean people. They don't really like to swim. But so those are their values then around that trauma around the water. And we have the same kinds of values in our relationships, in our marriages, right? According to what we saw and experienced growing up.
Yeah.
So
let's say we have a belief in our marriage that if somebody doesn't say please or thank you, that means that equals disrespect.
Right.
So then if your spouse doesn't say please or thank you to you, your belief is they're disrespecting you. So you're interpreting that lack of action or a specific action to mean something, and then you will react from that place. And if it was associated, like you say, Ned, with some kind of trauma or some loaded emotional experience, a fear-based experience as a kid, whether you remember it or not, it will feel really strong and almost uncontrollable. So that whoosh you talk about, it's like 0 to 90.
Yeah.
How do these triggers show up? Like how I describe it is 0 to 90 in 1 second, and you feel like you didn't see it coming, and you see red, right? What else is happening while you're being triggered? What's an indication that you know you're being triggered or that you are in that triggering experience?
I mean, honestly, it really depends on what the trigger is. Sometimes it can lead to avoidance of the situation altogether, and sometimes you can become very confrontational also. It really just depends on how you're being triggered. And again, what part of your memory is being, is responding to that particular stimulus. And so it really depends on your experience from the past and how you've associated yourself with that, around that experience.
Yeah. Like a lot of times, we'll see women and men. But for example, women who, go to their husbands to talk about emotional things, to try to emotionally connect important conversations. Yeah. And if she was a girl in her youth who watched her parents fight, if this was a girl who experienced her mother being physically abused, emotionally abused, psychologically abused, if she herself was abused, she's probably going to be one of those people who keeps her mouth shut, doesn't really rock the boat very much, and is fearful, right?
Yeah.
And usually those women attract a man just like that, and they'll replay that scenario. I see that happen all the time, and and so we're always reenacting until we start doing the inner work. We're always reenacting to some extent what we saw growing up,
Absolutely.
It's really important to remember that.
Yes. And it can show up in different ways. Like it could be that you shut down and you get really scared and you feel a little bit frozen, like fight or flight.
Yeah.
Or freeze. You could freeze up. You could be triggered when you're freezing and you just can't think straight.
Yeah.
You could be triggered when you just shut down. You feel flooded and you can't respond. You want to just run away.
Yeah.
Or it might be an angry lashing out reaction where you have to lash out in order to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Those would be indications. If you're saying things are coming out of your mouth that you're like, I can't believe I said that. If you're acting outside of your values in the moment because of feeling triggered, that's an indication that you're in that place where you're not mindful. It's that old automatic physiological reaction that's taking.
Yes. And the other thing that it tells you is your conscious values that you really hold, right? Like aren't matching up with the subconscious values that are embedded.
Yeah. So then that's why you feel like you're sabotaging yourself. It's like there's this part of me that's behaving in ways that is not in alignment with what I'm trying to do here. Consciously.
Right.
And then you're fighting with yourself. That's why people get so discouraged. So let's talk about how can we help people really reframe this as a gift? How is it that we can use triggers as a way to learn and grow and be better?
Well, one way is to celebrate. I wrote that down in my right here when I was when you were talking earlier. Is to start to, when you feel the whoosh, and the whoosh is going to come over around money. That's a huge one. It's always going to come out around money, and whatever your money dynamic is in your marriage, it's going to come out around sex. A lot of couples aren't having sex anymore. They're in the roommate thing going on, and one partner always is the one who brings it up. It's going to happen when women want more attention and affection and they're not getting it. It's going to happen during parenting disagreements. So whatever way it shows up for you when the whoosh comes over and you feel triggered and you're upset or your feelings are hurt or you're angry or you just want to withdraw, use that as an opportunity to stop, to breathe, take a deep breath, and to say to yourself, this is a celebration because I get to choose in this moment how I'm going to respond. I can have an emotionally corrective response. And what that means is I can respond in a totally different way. I can come from my conscious mind and I can use this as an opportunity to grow. I can use this as an opportunity to learn about myself and then to evolve. And that is uncomfortable because most of us are used to just going, or however it is, I'm a fighter, right? So when I get triggered, I fight. Or I try to fix. I'm a fighter or a fixer. And everyone's different. But I don't do the withdrawal strategy. And everyone has their own flavor. But you have in those moments to choose to be a mature adult and choose a different response. You know, it's really a gift because you get to heal yourself.
It's an opportunity, exactly, to make a different choice in that moment and remember that it's actually the choice you make in those moments. That is like the real work of pivoting your old habits and your default mode.
And creating new habits.
It's what you do with those moments. If you choose not to throw in the towel in that moment and respond differently, even if that just means walking away when you would normally fight. Anything to disrupt that pattern is going to be helpful in creating something new for the future.
Right.
You have to unravel the old expectation, and that creates this potential for something new to come into it. So I think that's right. Celebrate and look at it as an opportunity. It's almost like you can have the attitude of, all right, bring it. Like next time, I'm going to be ready next time. Don't say, I just want to never get triggered again and try to go into avoidance of like, I hope I never get triggered again because I just don't know what to do. Instead, think, bring it on. I'm ready because the next time I get triggered, I'm going to remember this. And you can give yourself a mantra and you can write it down. You can put it on a note card and you can be prepared for it. That I like that. Really, celebrating is not what we think of when we think of triggers.
No, it's the reframe. It's the reframe that you really want to take away from this live training today is reframe it. It's really a gift. It's how we grow. It's the beauty of marriage.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you, like you said, it's really important that we recognize how we feel in those moments. Because like you said, it's easier said than done to oh yeah, let me just turn it off and walk, let me just be calm around the situation. So you really have to be mindful of when you're being triggered so that you do choose to go, I'm not going to do that right now the way I normally do. So.
Force is strong.
Yeah.
But I think you don't have to be calm. You can still be triggered and know that you're triggered and still make a different choice in spite of the fact that you're feeling that way.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what you teach a lot of inside of the program, because when people come to us, before they come to us, that's really the main culprit of why people are on the verge of divorce. They're getting triggered by one another constantly. They're fighting constantly, and they don't know how to come out from under that pattern until they start to work with us and see you can completely change this pattern. You can completely turn it around and change the whole dynamic of your relationship.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's really about the belief work. That's the other way. So what you guys were speaking to was really slowing down your response time. I mean, that's kind of what you were saying, Ned, is slow down your reaction, take a moment. Even if you can just create a gap of space between the triggering event and your reaction, that's progress.
Yeah.
But a deeper way to approach it is to look at what are my beliefs about this and how can I change those at the subconscious level so that I'm not working against my default. So I'm not having to work against that old program that is so much stronger than my conscious intentions.
Yeah.
Especially if it's trauma-based. And especially if it's issues around, and the topics that you brought up, Kelly, issues around safety when we're vulnerable, around intimacy or emotion or money, which is issues of safety and security, of feeling like I'm safe in the world. Anything like that is going to be linked with trauma more often than other more superficial issues. But even superficial, quote unquote, small things there can be a lot at stake on what seems like a small thing. And so if you're getting triggered by even like small things, you want to really look at, okay, what is at stake for me? What am I really fighting for? What am I afraid of losing? And what is the meaning I'm making out of it? What beliefs do I have to have in order to remain calm or more conscious in these situations? Yeah. So that's another way that you can use your triggers as a gift, is you literally can say, all right, write down what's the thing you get triggered by the most, and answer the questions. What am I triggered by? I mean, what's at stake for me about this trigger? What am I really fighting for? What am I afraid of? What do I believe? And what do I need to believe instead? And then you can reprogram your beliefs on that level. And then the next time it comes, it's not going to be as strong. It doesn't happen overnight, but through repetition and consistency, you can make a lot of progress with that.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to stack on what you were saying, Monika. Kelly and I had this conversation earlier, and we were just talking about, when we're talking about our values, and you're feeling like, someone's crossing a boundary when they talk to you, because oftentimes that's what we feel. We feel like someone's questioning our value. Mm-hmm. You want to ask yourself, how is this value been serving me? Mm-hmm. Has this been serving me in a positive way? Uh-huh. Or has it been serving me more in a negative fashion? So you may want to reevaluate your values around that particular argument. Yeah. You might want to look at it. And it's just one more thing. Like you said, it's just one more way to begin to address this in a more positive fashion, because it's really difficult to do that. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to be felt to be made wrong. But if this is something that is a cycle and it doesn't feel good, and you continue to go through this cycle over and over again, you have to think about doing something different.
Yeah, exactly. How is this working for me? What can I let go of? And it's not just to keep the peace, it's actually to just take the power back.
Exactly.
Yeah. If you can master your emotional responses, you can do anything in life.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can't do if you can master your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is about, is looking at it as an opportunity to go, all right, there's some work here. Wherever your triggers are, you got to shine the light right there.
Right. Yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what else? Anything else? I mean, I think that's it in a nutshell. But if there's anything else you guys wanted to add to what people can do if they're really exploring what their triggers are, and what they can do to really embrace them as an opportunity, any other questions they could ask, or any other techniques that we can offer for now, at least in terms of what has to happen, even though we can't get into the how to do that now.
Yeah. I think definitely, like I said earlier, just embrace that change and embrace that transformation is really uncomfortable. But staying where you are right now, in a unconnected, disconnected, sometimes hellish marriage dynamic is worse. You know, it's even more uncomfortable to stay in a dynamic like that than it is to grow and to change. So embrace being uncomfortable, learning new skills, trying new things, and embrace that you don't know everything, and that, you know, you probably need help around these areas, and you probably need to reach out for help in these areas.
Yes, absolutely. And if you guys are interested in getting support with one of us, or you just want to explore what your triggers are, what the precursors for them are, if there's like hidden beliefs or assumptions that you're just really not sure what they are, you can book a call with us at monikahoyt.com/talk. And it's just a free call just to kind of gain some clarity around what's underneath the surface with your biggest triggers and your patterns, and to see what the next steps might be. And then in the meantime, what I think that I want to leave you guys with, and really to piggyback on what you're saying, Kelly, not only to embrace the fear of discomfort in doing this work, but really think about what are the signs that lead up to me being triggered, and how can I be aware of them before and as they're happening, to bring your awareness to it, not after the fact, not after everything has blown up and gone to hell in a handbasket. Now you're like, I don't even know, oh my God, that happened so fast.
Yeah.
But you want to try to bring your awareness in closer and closer to the time that it's actually happening, to the point where you can be aware as it's coming. Like, these are situations in which these are high risk situations for me. Certain behaviors that come before the triggers, certain feelings that you're having, an emotional state that you might be in that makes you more sensitive to triggers. If you can be really self-aware around that stuff, that'll help you a lot too, to be ready for them. And to journal on that and write that down.
Yeah.
That was something I was thinking before, but I forgot to say that. So that's it for today, you guys. Thank you, Ned and Kelly, for joining again. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please post them below and we will answer them. And we will catch you next time. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.